Introduction. So welcome everyone once again. I'm glad we have a few more people joining us. And now I am going to, before introducing Kathy, I have to do one more thing, which is thank the Harold Grinspoon Foundation and the Jewish Federation of Princeton Mercer Bucks for their very generous support and funding of life and legacy programming. We couldn't do this without their support. So thank you to both Grinspoon and our local federation. And now I am so pleased to introduce our very special guest for tonight. It's Kathy Sarlson. Kathy serves as the National Director of Life and Legacy at the Harold Grinspoon Foundation. With over 35 years of experience, Kathy has a deep expertise in planned giving and endowments, including her role as Associate Vice President of Planned Giving at Jefferson, a leading academic medical center in Philadelphia, where she successfully raised $35 million annually. Her leadership extends to roles at the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia, Federation Housing Incorporated, and Albert Einstein Healthcare Network, all in Philadelphia. So we're very lucky to have her somewhat nearby our Greater Mercer and West Central regions. She's a proud alumna of the University of Michigan, Harvard Divinity School, and Stanford Graduate School of Business. And she's a Cleveland native, which was news to me. We should talk about Cleveland. And a mom to 3 adult children and 1 cute dog. So welcome, Kathy. We're so glad that you are here, and we're eager to learn from you. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. It's such a joy to see you all. And wasn't that long ago I was up at the celebration for Linda. And I know that many of you have met my colleague Arlene Schiff, who together with Linda has worked on this program in your community since the very beginning, pretty much, of Life and Legacy. And I'll add my congratulations to Amy and a warm welcome to Justine. So in a moment, I am going to pray to the technology gods, and I am going to start the PowerPoint. So bear with me for one moment. We'll do that. Oh, here we are. All right, so hopefully you all can see my screen. Thumbs up if you can see my screen. Yeah, excellent. Okay, so and as Amy mentioned, I'm going to do some presenting. I'm going to give some time for folks to chime in, ask questions. And it's really great to talk about this topic in particular, how to ensure that all these wonderful promises that your community has secured, that they are fulfilled to benefit your community. So I like to tell people what we're doing and where we're going. So welcome, check, did that. Welcome. And we're going to talk about where your community is today in terms of life and legacy, a little bit about the differences between promises and formalized commitments, why formalization matters, how to get started. We have a couple steps we like to use. And we're going to do a little role play. Don't get nervous. Probably it's going to be me and Amy. We're going to sort of go over stewardship, and then we're going to wrap up. So this is where y'all are today. And so since your launch, you've done such an incredible job. You have 25 participating organizations. You've secured 828 promises, which is fantastic. An estimated, yay, yeah, an estimated future value of 32 million. So, you know, sometimes people will tell us what they're planning on leaving to organizations. Sometimes we use a placeholder. So that's our estimate. and already you have 2.3 million of that you've received. Caveat, that does include a $1 million PACE gift. We're going to talk a little bit about formalized promises. So of all those 828 where people signed and said, yep, I'm going to leave something, so far that number has let us know that they've actually taken the steps to make that happen. And we'll go into that in more detail. I like to share what you are a part of something so much bigger. And so this is what life and legacy looks like nationally. We are in 75, we are or have been in 75 communities across the US and Canada. Over 900 organizations have participated. We've secured over 42,400 legacy commitments by more than 33,000 donors. The reason why those numbers are different is because some people will leave something to one person, but one person, one organization, and others will leave to more than one. In total, that's an estimated $1.8 billion. And of that, 252 million is already at work. And the reason why this program has been so successful is because of all of you. It's really all the volunteers and the professionals who have come together to plant the seeds that while we may not see all the fruit in our lifetimes, it means that we're really strengthening our organizations for the next generations. So I'm just jumping right in. So this is your promise form, which hopefully all of you have seen before. So when you started out and throughout the process, you've talked to people about their intention to leave something to your organizations. And so people will fill this out, they'll check things off, and kind of in the middle there where it says commitment, they have two options. They'll either say, I've actually already fulfilled this. I've put it in my will. I've already put it in my retirement plan. Or they may say, I or we make a commitment and will legally formalize this within the next 6 months. So that's the part we're going to focus on tonight, which is when people check that part off. So they're going to make sure that it is in their plans, but they haven't done it yet.
Kathy, I just wanted to jump in and say that that promise form is the Greater Mercer promise form, but I know we have a couple of West Central partners joining us tonight. So there is a similar one with the different listing of organizations for West Central, but the contents and that commitment section is the same.
Great, thank you. And this is what the legacy gift confirmation form looks like. So this is a place where someone can really provide more details. You know, I actually am providing through the synagogue through my will, or I made the Jewish Center the beneficiary of my retirement plan. And we'll get into why this piece is so important. So just anyone can pop in either in the chat or just speak up. Kind of what's the difference between those two forms? I know it's a little bit of a softball question. How are those two things different if you sign one and not the other? Don't make me call an Amy, because I will.
Okay, I'm gonna just guess. I guess one is a promise that says that your intentions are to do something, and one is saying that you've confirmed that you've actually followed through and fulfilled that promise, that you actually, whether it's through, if it, a beneficiary form for your IRA, that you've actually gone ahead and done that. And one is, yeah, so I would assume that's the difference between the two, the intention and the act.
You are 100% correct. Thank you, Jan.
I mean, maybe I'll pop in another time as well. Okay. I apologize if I have to leave early, but yeah, so yes.
That's perfect. Thanks. That's absolutely it. So one is saying, it is in my heart. I want to leave something for the synagogue or um, this organization or that organization. The other is you've actually made sure that that's what's going to happen. So so what could possibly go wrong if someone signs the promise, but actually has not made any of the plans? And I'm gonna try not to throw any of my imaginary people under under a train or anything. What could possibly go wrong? Um, so like I really meant to include them in my plans, but I never made the arrangements. So I meant to leave money. So I'm in the Philadelphia area. So I meant to leave money to my synagogue, Ohev Shalom, nearby. I'm in Swarthmore, nearby in Wallingford, but I did not actually do anything about it. So two things will happen. And also, I never told my children or my executor. So when I'm gone, nobody knows. The synagogue could say, well, she signed this promise. But if I didn't make the plans, I didn't make the plans. And then they might have to hope that maybe my children will say, okay, we'll make a donation on mom's behalf. Maybe. But most importantly, like my favorite charities won't receive my gifts if I haven't made those plans. So I wanted to give a little example. This is Marilyn, and she's an active member of her synagogue, and she volunteers for JFCS. And 2 years ago, she was proud to sign a promise form, and she committed to leave legacy gifts to both organizations. And I'm not going to kill Marilyn off, don't worry. So then she checked this part off. We make I made a commitment. I promise I'll formalize it. So then a few things took place. Oh my gosh, she needed a new roof. It's like that was very top of mind. Next week she's hosting the family for Thanksgiving. Then she went on a cruise in the winter. And then she went to her grandson's bar mitzvah. So like all these things are going on. We get busy. Everybody gets busy. And now a year has gone by and she actually hasn't fulfilled her intentions yet. So I thought since I'm in Philadelphia, we like Benjamin Franklin a lot down here. So here's a little aphorism: well done is better than well said. So it kind of, in this case, it really matters to get this done. So how do we get from the promise to a formalized commitment? And that's actually where all of you can help. So Amy and I were talking and we realized, and she'll be able to follow up with all of you about this. The first thing is really to think about, well, who do we need to talk to, right? So who are these people? Who are all the folks who signed, I wrote LOI, sorry about that. You guys call it promises. Who are all the people who signed the promise form, but haven't yet let you know that they have actually made the plans? Those are the main people. If you have time, somewhere down the line, another good group to talk to are people who maybe 10 years ago actually did make the plans, but it's a good idea to say, I know 10 years ago we started this program and you let us know. We're so grateful, like you're leaving money to our organization. I was just wondering, like, has anything changed? Is that still in place? So it's good to confirm, because sometimes people do change their plans. And then you'll decide as a team, like once Amy will provide you with a list of who to call, when you might want to do it. You might say, okay, like January, February, we'll make some calls. And then if they're not ready, maybe May, June, we'll follow up. It depends, and we'll get to that. And then you have to think about, are you going to want to call people on the phone? Do you want to meet in person? But I wanted to get into sort of the how to. So there's these 4 steps: think, ask, make it easy, and encourage gently. And we'll walk through all of them. So thank. This is going to sound kind of backwards. I'm going to assume a lot of these things already happen, but it's a good idea just to double check. So after they sign the promise, I'm assuming they probably already got thanked. It's always a good idea. And whenever you see them, if you know that there's someone who signed a promise, if you have the opportunity, it's nice to say, we're so grateful. They will probably be listed on like any list of being in a legacy society. They'll get invited to celebrations, and they're honored and recognized in different ways throughout the year. Amy, did you want to jump in?
I was only going to jump in because, I work so closely with each team, but we don't really talk about the thank you process. And I really sort of leave it up to each team to kind of handle and manage that. But I think it's a good opportunity for everybody to kind of go back to their teams and say, let's revisit this. Who is the one writing the thank you note? Is it somebody in the office? Is it a volunteer on the Life and Legacy Committee? And I know you're about to get to this, but in addition to a thank you, are we sending them any follow-up materials? So I just wanted to put that out there for everybody to think about. So go on.
No,
Thank
that's great. Yeah, and it's fine. We'll kind of start with thank, and we're going to end with thank too, because you can never ever thank people too many times.
I have a quick question.
Yeah,
I don't know
please.
if this is the right time to
Anything.
jump in,
Yeah, please.
but and maybe you'll get to this, is how does it get coordinated when people are making legacy promises to multiple organizations? Is I don't know if you're going to get to that, but
Excellent question.
yeah.
And I did not include that. Amy, what would you suggest?
Well, Jonathan, if one organization receives a promise form and you see that your organization, but another organization is checked off, typically what happens is that team member will send the promise form to me, and then I'll share it back out with the other organization that has been checked off, unless the two organizations have a relationship with each other already and you guys want to communicate. I always need to be in the mix so that I can record it here in the foundation's database. And then really, you both received commitments. So you both should thank the donor. Jonathan, you would thank the donor on behalf of Flemington Jewish Community Center, and then the other organization, with somebody on that team, would thank them on behalf of that organization. So you both need to fulfill the next steps equally. Do it do individually. Really is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to the thanking, both organizations can do that. And then if I understand what Amy's saying, usually there's, well, for lack of a better word, I'll say the lead organization. So it might be that the person filled this out, their promise with the JCC, and the JCC got the form. And then they also checked off, let's say, their synagogue. And so I think it would be the JCC then that would be taking the lead to reach back out in terms of this formalization part. And certainly if you have a good relationship with the synagogue, then you can talk about it together. But Amy, does that sound right? That whichever organization kind of got that form originally?
Yes, although, if another organization does have a genuine rapport and relationship with the donor, we don't want them to not be able to say their own thank you as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, thank you for sure. But in terms of who's going to make the call to ask about formalizing, it sounds like you want to go with the organization that originally got the form.
Yeah.
Can I ask, I'm a little confused about that because
Yeah.
Amy, I'm not really aware we have any lead organizations that way. I mean, people have made commitments, and it seems, my recollection is that our experience over the past 10 or 12 years has been, well, like everyone's doing it on their own, like if it's one of the synagogues, or if it's a family service or whoever, people are doing whatever recognition events, whatever thanking. And I mean, I have no idea, frankly, who at Beth Chaim who has made a promise to anybody else, and whether it's been formalized or not.
Well, we can talk specifically about Beth Chaim's list offline, and I track that info. I can tell you if they've made commitments elsewhere. I think in our community, as Don is suggesting, oftentimes the synagogues are the lead, and our agencies tend to be like secondary beneficiaries. I see Helene shaking her head, and Helene's from Jewish Family and Children's Service. Um, Sometimes the agencies will get a gift on their own, or be the lead before a synagogue, but we tend to be very synagogue driven in the Life and Legacy program. And probably because it's probably the concept of having a lead organization feels not as familiar to you, Don, is because we probably haven't been doing the formalization work, which is as much as we should, which is why we invited Kathy to do this presentation tonight to somewhat light a fire under us so that we can kind of go to that next step. We've been working so hard to still get promises year after year. We've been working so hard to steward our donors, recognize our donors, cultivate new prospects, but we're ready to kind of go to that next step also of doing more formalization work. So
Yeah.
I'll be along with Justine, we'll be working with each team in the coming weeks and months to help you on the next steps of this journey. But I want to throw this back to Kathy so we can get back to her presentation.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think as Amy and Justine start working with them, with each organization, synagogue, it'll become clearer, who's the right person to reach out. So just as a reminder, back in our early days of training, when we talk about, as volunteers, as staff, having these legacy conversations, we're really giving a donor, a friend, a member, the opportunity to do something really meaningful and significant in their lifetime. So I think sometimes for me, having been in fundraising all these decades, I try to keep that in mind. It's not about taking something away from someone, but it's helping them to do something that can mean a great deal to them and that they feel good about. And in the same way, having this conversation, a way to think about it is you're helping them to make sure their wishes are fulfilled. Because again, the promise or the intention, unless they've made those plans, it's not going to happen. And so you're really helping them to make sure that happens. So when we get to the ask, and we're going to send you this PowerPoint, I disclaim these are a lot of words, and you will definitely want to have your own words. There are probably too many words in this, but some of the ideas is like, we're so grateful and thank you for caring about the synagogue, about the GCC. Have you had a chance yet to formalize your plans? You can say that however you want, to talk with your lawyer or to make, the organization a beneficiary of a retirement plan. And then it's kind of why it helps the organization, it helps us plan for the future, and why it helps them. Sorry, that is a little formal. And as for you, it ensures your wishes are carried out just as you've envisioned, leaving a lasting legacy and giving you peace of mind. I know for a lot of us, like we think, oh, I got to call the lawyer, I got to do this, I got to do that. And we put it off and we put it off and we put it off. But when we finally do it, there is a real sense of relief and peace of mind, knowing everything is the way we want it to be. In terms of make it easy, you do not need to know all these details, but I'm just putting it in here, and there's a form that Amy will share with everybody that you can share with anybody who needs a little bit information about how to do it. And again, you do not need to be an expert, but certainly, it's easy to say, I know some people have left money to our synagogue by putting something in their will. And then this happens to be some sample language. Some people make the charity a beneficiary of an amount or percentage of the assets in their retirement plan. I often tell people, and this is true, not prescriptive. You do not have to do this. I have a big, it's not big. I have a retirement plan. I have 3 adult children, and so I made a decision that each child gets 30%, and then the remaining 10, I'm gonna be leaving to actually 2 different charities. So whatever that 10% is, if I leave to be 120, there might not be a lot left. And so we'll see. And then this is some information about how they do that. If they happen to have a donor advised fund with the foundation, they can talk to the foundation about having what's left in that donor advised fund benefit charities. And the other thing we always like to remind people about, assuming you have this kind of relationship with your adult children, it's really important to let people know your wishes. It can really make it easier in the future when it's time to implement those plans, that everybody's on the same page. And I know the foundation is there to help. So if you're talking to someone and they say, you know, I definitely want to do it, but I'm kind of confused. I'm not sure how, should I do it this way or that way? Obviously, they have their own professional advisors, and Amy and her team can be a good resource. And everything I just said in those last few slides is all on that piece of paper, sort of next steps. So encourage gently. They look so cute. So we all know, like, some of our job is nudging, but I think it's more direct than that. If they say, "Oh my gosh, I totally meant to do that," you can say, "I understand. Can I follow up again in?" And your team will figure out when that might be. And you know, again, can I connect you to Amy to answer any questions? So, so these are 2 different scenarios. One is they say, yes, I did formalize it. So you want to let whoever is kind of your contact on your team know, and they'll let Amy know, and you can send a little thank you to the person you talk to. And Amy can work with them, you know, just to make sure that they've provided whatever paperwork. And if they say not yet, you can send them a thank you note, and then Amy will share that next steps to help them make the next step. Yep. Sorry, did I miss something? Yep. Okay. And then if they said not yet, you can just put on your own calendar, okay, I'm gonna call them in May or June or whenever that might be.
Excuse me, Kathy, I'm Helene from JFCS, and I have a
Hi,
question.
Helene, please.
So let's say they said yes.
Yes.
What documentation is there other than them saying, sure, I took care of it. I spoke to my attorney. There's a codicil in my will. That's very nice, but that doesn't give me 100% assurance either. So what
Yes.
is the next step in terms of documentation or paperwork, what we should be asking?
Yes. Yes, and I should have added to that part, but let me clarify with Amy who's going to send. So you have that that commitment form where people can put all that in. This is my name. I'm leaving money to XYZ charities, and this is how I'm doing it, and that they sign it. So Amy, do you think the teams will send that out, or would you be sending that out? If they said, yep, I've done it, they just haven't actually filled out that form.
I mean, ideally, I'd like to streamline things where when you send your official thank you note from your organization, you also send the formalization document. And so you're thanking and you're asking them, please, in the next few months, and they wrote on the form how many months it's going to take them to formalize. So please, in the next 6 months, we appreciate you following through and completing this formalization document. And on that document, they would say, I have put this in my will. But what I would say is We do have a handful of donors who have disclosed to us further documentation. They've given us an excerpt of their will or their codicil. They've shown us their beneficiary form. So, we welcome that if they feel comfortable. Many people, don't do that, and they've only gone as far as the formalization form. But if people wanted to share that additional documentation, that would be terrific because it further shows us that this has actually been done. Um,
So yes,
Elaine, does that answer?
yes. So I need to correct that. It should say send a thank you note and the commitment form. So both things can be sent to them, so they can complete that with the information, and then they're all set. So I just wanted to open up the conversation about the conversation, and I'm wondering, I did a lot of talking, and I can make it sound pretty easy, but I'm wondering if you think about having these conversations with folks, how do you feel about it, and what are your kind of thoughts and concerns? Don't be shy. And you can put it in the chat if you prefer.
So I have a question. So for well, maybe more than one, but the first one's, what about the people who may really keep putting it off and putting it off? So if we follow your little formula here, right, and talk to them and then follow up in a month or 3 months or whatever, and then time goes on and they still never do anything. What do you do about that?
What do you do about that? That's a great question. So, I will answer you honestly based on my experience as a fundraiser. For example, I worked at Jefferson, which probably some of you are familiar with, and there were people that I would remind, every 4 or 6 months, they planned on leaving a legacy, but they just hadn't really figured it all out. I'd answer questions, I'd meet them in person. And there are definitely a lot of people that, it's true, we get to it when we get to it. And I think, unlike an annual campaign gift where you kind of want to get that in by whether it's June 30th or December 31st, it's acknowledging that for a lot of people, this can just feel harder, or like they just have steps to take and they don't necessarily want to think about it. But I've had people where maybe it took 6 months or it took a year, or sometimes it takes longer. It could be 2 years. I could say that there was a very large after lifetime gift that took 7 years, but we were really glad and they finalized it. There was a woman I spoke to for a couple years. And after I left Jefferson in January to take this job, I just got a couple months ago, I got a text from my colleague who continued to work with her. And she's like, "You're never going to believe it. Like, she did it." So I think you have to have a lot of patience and be gracious with people, and just sort of stick with it. Occasionally you might get someone who doesn't tell you that they've done it, but they have done it. But hopefully at least a number of people that you talk to will tell you, "Oh, actually, I already did it. And yeah, I'll fill out that form," or "Thank you for the reminder. Yes, I'm gonna do that." Marcy.
It's Macy.
Macy, sorry, Macy, I looked at it too fast. Macy.
It's okay. I get called Mercy like every day. So
Oh my gosh.
plus we have 2 Mercies at Naamot.
Of course.
Anyways, so my name's Macy. I'm the new development manager for Naamot. So I was also a plant giving representative at Salvation Army. So we had the problem where, not a problem, a good problem where, every other week an attorney would contact us. My client passed away, left you guys $250,000. We'd look them up in Razor's Edge. They were giving $20 a month for the last 35 years with no contact from the development department based on their giving level, not their giving longevity. So my question is more about the CRM process. At Salvation Army, we would enter the gift as a gift expectancy for 25,000, and then once the gift was realized, we would enter the exact amount. I mean, I had a lot of cases where they did disclose to me the actual amount. So my question for you is, I don't know, do you also use the $25,000 as a placeholder for the gift expectancy, or do you use a different kind of number?
I'll turn that to Amy.
So, because we have had the terrific support of the Harold Grinspoon Foundation since this program was launched back in 2012, and Princeton, Greater Princeton, was one of the first communities to launch the program. You know, the Grinspoon team really wanted us to put an estimate on every promise that we received. And so at one point it was higher, I think earlier on in the program, and then we currently, when we do reporting to the Grinspoon Foundation, which I still do twice a year, we do that 25,000
Oh.
placeholder. But
Right.
we know that there's a very significant range
Mhm.
of possibilities locally, where
Of course, it could be lower, it could be higher.
and our realized promises that have already been fulfilled reflect that. You know, in one year, last fiscal year, one synagogue received a realized gift of 100,000. Another synagogue received a gift of 5,000. So there really is a range. We use the 25,000 as a placeholder because the national average, Kathy, you told me the other day, you said it's around.
Yeah, so we started, I think some organizations are finding that 50,000 might be realistic, and we, just in all the data that we've had, so from that slide that I showed you, it averages now out to be about 60,000, but I think the point Amy's making is really important. For one thing, every community is a little different, so that's really a national average, and you have like some very affluent communities in there as well. And so you really may have, you know, generally like from $500 to 50 or 100,000, and then like in your realized statistics, you get that $1 million gift, which sort of skews things. I think 25,000 is a nice realistic rule of thumb if people don't tell you the amount.
Thank you, and great presentation. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Let me get to a few more things, and then we can always come back to that. So practice makes perfect. You may or may not want to do this, but I know in Life and Legacy, we encourage you, if you like have a friend or a colleague or another volunteer, you can pair off, you can practice the conversation. If you see on the list, you know, there's a board member and you want to start with them or start with someone, you know, that you're closer to. Sometimes people prefer that, sometimes people don't prefer that. To even say, I don't know if you're my practice, right? Like I do need to talk to you about this, but I'm like a little nervous, and I'm hoping you can help me practice this. So I thought Amy and I are going to do like a quick little role play. I am going to be the person who signed the promise form and hasn't yet formalized. Amy can fill in any other details that you like.
Okay, so in this role play, Kathy and I are both members of the same synagogue. And so we're fellow congregants and we're somewhat social. We know each other. And so I'm a member of the congregation and I am volunteering to work on the Life and Legacy Committee. So, and I'm a relatively new volunteer, and I was given my marching orders. Here are 5 people who recently made a promise. Can you please follow up with them? So, so I reached out to Kathy and I said, can we chat? And I said, can we talk about the synagogue and Life and Legacy? I disclosed that up front. And she said, of course. And so here we're having the conversation. So, Kathy, so nice to see you. Thank you so much for chatting with me. How are things?
Things are good. Busy, so busy. Oh my gosh.
I know, I know. Well, congrats on all your great work and the kids. They're doing so well. And wow, things are busy at the synagogue too, right?
Yeah, I know. There's been a lot going on.
I know, and they're just recruiting people left and right. So they recruited me to be on the Life and Legacy Committee,
Okay.
and I just couldn't say no. I know that it's all about helping to sustain us into the future, and I understand you made a promise too recently.
Yeah, I did. I was really glad to do it. You know, the synagogue has meant so much to me. You know, we've had so many important life events there, and yeah, it's meant so much to our whole family. So I'm really glad to be giving back in that way.
Well, I know that I feel the same way. I feel the same way, and we just when we made our promise a couple of years ago, we just felt like they helped educate the kids and they were there for us in sad times, and we've made our friends, and it's just helped to sustain us and connect us to a community, and I know you feel the same. Um, so so let me just do my housekeeping here.
Sure.
I was told that it's really important to follow up with everyone who's made a promise, because at the end of the day, the promises are lovely, but we have to make sure that they get fulfilled someday. So I know you checked off on your form that you would formalize in 6 months, and it has been 6 months. And so I don't mean to pry into too many details, but have you been able to take those next steps?
I'm glad you asked. Not yet. I've been meaning to. You probably know I started this big new job and I'm just running around like crazy and I'm trying to make sure to visit my mom, you know, now that she's on her own and I'm the kids, you know, there's always so much going on with them. So I haven't gotten to it yet, but I promise I will. I know I need to do that. I totally need to do that.
No, I totally get it. And I hope your mom's hanging in there, and and I just want to plant some seeds, because I don't know if you've even given thought to all the possibilities, but the team has been educating me on all the ways that you can actually formalize it. And I know some things involve, talking to your attorney, but there actually are some other ways of doing it that are a little simpler. Um, you know, Iran and I, we chosen to fulfill our promise through our donor advised fund,
Hmm.
which is super easy, because we just, gave instructions and said we want 50% of the money left in the fund to go to the synagogue, and that was it. But you can also fill out a beneficiary form very easily for your retirement plan. Uh,
Yeah, that's actually what I've been planning on doing. And so I just have to talk to my advisor, who also like that's where my retirement plans are now. And I guess he'll like give me the form. So I just have to update that form. I don't need to call my lawyer. I just need to, yeah, I can do that. I'll just reach out to him because he can help me like update that. And then I can also just ask him, you know, which of my two retirement, you know, all that stuff, because I don't know. But yeah, that's all. That is the one thing I need to do.
all right. Well, I know you're super busy, but we really appreciate you just, dropping that email. I know so many of the retirement plans even have the forms online. There, you could just Google, and you can
Yep.
easily download them. So thank you so much. I mean, should I maybe touch base like in 3 months? Does that sound like
Yeah,
a
that's
reasonable
that's a
time
good
frame?
that's a good idea. And um I'm actually someone, I don't mind like a little nudge. So if you even like shoot me an email or just call me up and say, hey, just check in, it's a good reminder to me so I don't lose track of it again.
Absolutely. I'm going to put that right in my calendar right now, and I'm going to say, email Kathy 2 months, and maybe even better, we can go out for coffee.
I would love that. Never say no to coffee.
Great, great, great. Well, thank you for, chatting, and most importantly, thank you for this beautiful gesture. I know it makes you feel good to be giving this gift. And we as in the synagogue will always appreciate it. So thank you
Yeah, thank you for volunteering for this.
for this role play.
Yes, I believe you're a member of my synagogue now. Yeah, so yay for Amy.
Hey, nice job.
So, any thoughts or questions about that?
I think Lauren has her hand raised. Did you mean Lauren to do that? Let's see.
It was a clap for the role play.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think like hopefully this reminder is appropriate, which is like you're not in this alone, and it is going to bring such good to your organizations, but you don't have to like figure it all out yourself, and you have partners at the foundation that can really help you every step of the way, and the more that these gifts really get put into people's estate plans. I I had thought twice about it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I also had experiences in my work where people had sort of signed letters of intent or things like that, and then they passed, and we were all like, and like they hadn't done it. They meant to do it, but they hadn't done it. And so it's just so important to encourage people to take that next step. Sort of in a similar way, I had mentioned. Sorry, Amy, go ahead.
No, I was just going to emphasize that point, which is, and some of you may know this, representing your respective organizations, that we have had a handful of promise makers who are now deceased, and where we were never able to realize their gifts. And we largely think it's because they didn't take this next step. And and it does make us sad because we know that many of them were so committed to their organizations. So that's why we wanted to do this topic tonight, because you guys are putting so much time and effort and energy into this, but we want it to mean something someday. So which is why these next steps are so critical. So Kathy, I'm sorry, go back to
Yeah,
you.
that's okay. And I guess I would be remiss. I don't know that this will come up in any of your conversations. But every now and then, sometimes people are in the position later in their lives where they may say, you know what, I think I could actually fulfill that now during my lifetime. And so sometimes people will do that as well, which is amazing. Again, I think that that's not what you're necessarily going to find, but sometimes that does happen. So as I mentioned, like we start with thank you, we end with thank you. This is not intended to overwhelm. This is a slide from Life and Legacy that we use in a lot of our presentations, and you'll have this with you. You may have seen it before, but it's just talking in general about all the different ways that you can really honor and celebrate the folks who have made these kinds of commitments. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but every organization can kind of figure out for themselves what works the best. So that's always an opportunity to really thank and recognize and acknowledge. Oh, here we are at the end. So we have 5 minutes to spare. And thoughts, questions, comments. We're going to share this presentation with you. as Amy can talk more about next steps as well.
Well, I'll just jump in to say Kathy and I discuss, what comes next after this presentation. And I know we have other items on our life and legacy agendas. I'd like in December to be able to meet with the teams, introduce you to Justine, and talk about other tasks on our life and legacy to-do list, which we're always needing to do some stewardship. We're always needing to do some prospecting to identify new donors. But we really do want to take the next step with formalization. So what I'm planning on doing, and I frequently do this for you guys anyway, is I will send you the list of legacy donors. I have some notes in our database on formalization. So what I have to date, I will send to you. And then together we can look at the list and you guys decide how and when you want to follow up. I tried to explain to Kathy that so many of you are volunteers and many of you also wear professional hats, but you're busy with a lot of other tasks. So I want to make this easy for you. I want you to decide, okay, like Kathy mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, maybe like January is the month. We're just going to divide it up among the team and do some follow-up. And maybe we'll start off with emails and do some phone calls if necessary. I mean, you pick the method and the how and the when that works for you and your team, but we just want to make sure we're doing the follow-up and put it on the calendar. So if January is formalization, then maybe February we do some stewardship. In March we're asking, because by May 31st it's the end of our life and legacy year and we want to bring in our new promises by then. I see that Macy has her hand raised. So Macy,
Yes. Thank you. I just have one question. So when I was doing some one-on-one chats with some of the regional directors, one of them did mention to me that there were 3 gifts that she was aware of. So in regards to the formalization for those 3, I would love to, have that form or, how we can move forward with those 3 so we can, strike while the iron's hot and they've already, given us the commitment. It would be nice to be able to formalize that so I can put it into our CRM.
Sure. And Macy, I'll talk with you and Kim because I know you guys might have a slightly different form, but you can take a variation of our form. But we can talk offline about that.
Sounds good.
But that's great that you have 3 new commitments. That's wonderful.
More to come. More to come.
Congrats.
Thank you.
I wanted to, I know we're getting close to closing out. I wanted to say a couple more things. And again, first of all, thank you all so much. I mean, every single promise that has come in is really due to all of the volunteers and staff from all of your organizations. And so we have a lot of pride and gratitude for all that you're doing. I did want to make a plug. Amy will share with you, we do, the Grinspoon Foundation, we do have national webinars. So we're starting to put together our next ones for next year. We'll have one more in December featuring Don Kent, and he's with Bernstein Financial Advisors, but used to be part of Jewish Federation of North America's Plan, Giving, and Endowments team, and he's going to talk a lot more about conversations and what might be possible, particularly when you have families where, as we say, the kids are all right, the adult kids are doing fine, and so there might be an opportunity for people to think more about leaving more to charity. And also save the date, next spring, April 28th and 29th, after Passover. We will be up in Springfield for our annual conference. It's a really exciting get together with around 200 people from throughout North America, volunteers, professionals, and we come together to talk about life and legacy. It's a fun time, and it's a great place to really recharge your batteries. So we're excited about that, and I know Amy will share information with you about that.
Yes, it's something we have encouraged volunteers and staff to partake in over the years. We will have a limited number of stipends that we're happy to contribute to your travel expenses. And it's just a real shot in the arm. It's I've experienced it both in person and online, and it's a really wonderful 2 days with
Yes,
colleagues
and
all over the country doing the same work.
yeah, and I should have said, and Harold Grinspoon makes it possible for the conference itself is free. There is no registration charge, so it's really just the travel. That's all I had, so I'll turn it back over to Amy.
Anyone else before we conclude have any questions or thoughts? So I thank you guys for coming tonight and giving this hour of your time to learning. It really means a lot. I think we had literally 100% participation based on who registered. So that is like a major win. So thank you, everybody. And I will be sending out the one-on-one emails with the list of donors, noting who has formalized or not, and sending you the forms that Kathy mentioned. It might have been a while since you guys have seen the formalization form, so we're going to put that top of mind again and really work towards that this year. So thank you, Kathy, for joining us. It's very exciting to have the National Director of Life and Legacy join us, and this is the second time she's joined us because she was in person at the farewell for Linda in mid-October. So Kathy, we thank you and appreciate all your expertise. And I'll be in touch soon. Let's plan to meet in December. I'll reach out to set that up, and I look forward to some good work moving forward. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.